Right, we are live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Instagram today. So, how is everybody doing? Let me know how we're doing today. Let me know how everybody's Wednesday's going. Are you able to get some activity in? Are you able to start doing some stuff for yourself? Or are you watching the stream wondering, how the hell am I going to fix my form? So, before we even get started, let me know if you have any questions. You feel good? See, I love hearing that. I love hearing that. Now, let me know if you have any questions because I know how I want to do the forms, but this is for you, right? So when we're thinking form check, I'm not checking your forms. I'm not checking it twice, right? I'm not Santa Claus, even though my name is Nick. But yeah, I want to check the form. So if you have any questions about your lunges, your knees hurt when you lunge, do you have poor hinging in your hips, do you can't do a push-up, let me know how I can help. So, essentially, activity, shoot, I'm moving in my living room, my office. So you want to shampoo. That's how you got to use it. You got to use the exercise or use your chores as exercise. That's where it's all, that's where you get the sneaky steps in. But essentially, I think the other day when I was cleaning, before we get into it, I was cleaning and it was like 15,000 steps I think I got by just cleaning and scrubbing and doing stuff. So, when people say, get your steps in, I never left the house. I was just cleaning, doing the shit that we needed to. So, essentially, let's get into a lot of why we're here. So, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see me. We got me good over here. Perfect. So, a lot of times, and this is like a first little interactive one, so this is going to be fun. So, a lot of times that I think when we get into exercise, we get into squats, we get into lunges, I always hear, Nick, I always get knee pain. I get ankle pain. I can't do these particular exercises. And why is that? Well, a lot of times it's because of the biomechanics. And why am I even qualified to even teach you how to do this? Well, I am an exercise physiologist. I'm an online coach. I've been working in the industry for at least 10 years now, almost 10 years now. So I have some credentials to back me up. So I have studied a lot of anatomy, a lot of kinesiology, a lot of body biomechanics. So just to give you a little bit of background, so I'm not just pulling this shit out of my ass. This is where most people make the mistake when we get into squats, right? So a lot of times when you're squatting, your legs are either too close together, right? And so if they're too close together, you can't actually really sink and get a good hinge. So the first thing you want to do when you get into a squat is get your legs a little wider than hip distance. You can see right here, it's not directly straight down. It's a little wider than hip distance. And the reason you want to do this is because it's going to save you and it's going to allow you to focus on the hip hinge. So once you have that hip hinge, again, I want you to think you're rolling the shoulders back, and every time you go for a squat, I want you to think that you're sitting on something, right? So it's like you're sitting on the toilet, right? When you sit on the toilet, you don't do this to sit on the toilet, right? I know you don't. I know damn well you don't. So when you're sitting, you want to make sure that you sink the butt back, right? So this is where a lot of people go wrong. Nick, my knees hurt. My knees hurt. I can't do squats anymore. I need a knee replacement. Well, if you're always doing this to sit, if you're always doing this to bend down to get something out of, that's where your knees start hurting because you're putting so much pressure, undue pressure onto your patella, onto the ligaments. So this is how you're going to fix it. Very simple. I just try to give you different angles of my hips and my ass, right? So essentially how we're going to fix your squat is you're going to grab your hip hinge right here, right? Find the top of your hip. Once you're here, you're going to be able to tilt it back and really think that you're sitting on something. And I always say, try to stack your knees above your ankles. And if you could stack your knees above your ankles, you could start to feel how your hips actually start to hinge a little bit. And if you could start to develop that hip hinge, you can do a lot with it because you can actually start to hinge. Once you start hinging, you'll start to realize that this is a completely different exercise than what you do if you're pushing your knees forward. So let's look at it again. So if you're pushing your knees forward, there is no hinge, right? I'm kind of like straight up and down. And if people are listening to this on a replay, make sure that, I guess it's going to be a little bit different. What are we saying? Have to do it for work. It's starting to get hard. Oh, what do you do for work, Natalie, over there? Do you have to bend down a lot? Do you have to pick stuff up off the ground? But essentially the problem is you push with your knees. So we need to think about sinking with our hips back. See how this is different? Push, back. That's two completely different motions, right? So that's something I want you to consider whenever you start squatting, and even right now. And this is $100 advice. So all my clients, if you're listening, this is for you. This is for everybody. It's amazing you could do that motion in your previous ankle injury. Wow, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Hey, man, did you regain a lot of injury? Not a lot, but I want to show you, because this is my left one, right? So my left ankle, you might see that there is that little cyclops that is hanging out, right? Like there is that bone. You will find that I use things like this. So this is something called a slant board. So this is, you see this in PT a lot, but essentially it has like different angles of slants. And so I like to use this to help me just develop, being that a lot of you guys know that I do have that ankle injury, is that this allows me to get a little bit further. And if you could see, this ankle or this knee pushes a lot further than this one, because this one is broken. This one got hardware in it. That's the only downfall that I have, really, to answer your question over there on YouTube, is that I don't have as much dorsiflexion, you can see, in this ankle, and it ain't getting any better. And that feels like if I go any further, it's gonna fucking blow up, like, I'm not gonna lie. But something like the slant board, something that can help fix your squat, right? So if you're struggling with something who, you know, you're dealing with an ankle injury, you're dealing with a foot, a knee, a hip, a lot of whenever you're getting back into exercise or you're getting back into really anything, is to make sure we're sinking our hips back rather than pushing the knees forward. That will save your ass. Secondly, now how's everybody doing? Did you get that? What do we think? Anybody? Yeah? Okay. On Instagram, nice. What does your boyfriend do for work so you're able to do this? What does my boyfriend do? Oh, that's interesting. How do I professionally do a lat pull down with your, oh wow. That is something that you're gonna have to figure out on your own. See, you get on YouTube, the YouTube chat, they start going crazy on here. Natalie, what was that? I like that shirt. Thank you. But essentially, when you get into lunging, for instance, right? This is where a big problem that a lot of people have is that when they lunge, Nick, my knees hurt when I lunge. Well, of course you do, because you're doing the same thing as I said about the squats, right? So when you're doing your squats or you're doing your lunge, you're pushing too far with your knee forward. And a lot of times when people are doing this, it's because they don't have enough separation in their legs. So when you do a lunge, I know I'm like over here in the plants right now, but when you do a lunge, I want you to think that you're stepping forward and keeping your leg in a train track, right? You don't want to necessarily do a lunge where you're in a tightrope trying to figure out what the hell's going on. You want to be able to get your legs into a train track and be able to find that. Me personally, I don't like lunging. I like doing a split squat. And the reason I like that is because it allows me to sink this back knee, right? So as you can tell, I'm sinking down, right? I'm sinking my hips down. My knee is kind of right there above my ankle, but essentially that's on purpose. Not to say that going past it is any worse or any better. This is just what I like to feel comfortable for my quads. Now, the reason I really like doing that is because, now this is my injured ankle. When this ankle was broken, I couldn't get up. Like, this was very difficult for me. I had to practice this every day, the toe bend and the sinking of the knee and the sinking of the hip. And for a lot of people, this is the same thing too. You can't actually bend and get the dorsiflexion from your ankle, right? So then you get into that problem. Sarah, I've been putting my feet in a tightrope. I wonder if that's why my back knee's hurting when I lunge. See, this is kind of why I wanted to do this too. It's a good question, Sarah. So you've been tight roping. So the thing is watch, right? So if you're tight roping, what happens is you're not necessarily sinking. And look at my back foot, right? Let me turn this a little bit on, because I'm on my iPad over here. So watch my back foot. You want to have that heel up when you lunge. A lot of people make the misconception of having this heel down. We're not doing yoga, right? We're not doing yoga. What we want to do is you have that heel up. I'm trying to get in both cameras here. This is kind of difficult. It's kind of weird. But if you have that heel up, you can sink your knee down. Because essentially, what's a knee, right? Your knee is a hinge joint. And if you're like, what the hell's a hinge joint? A hinge joint is something that hinges. Think of your door hinge, right? It opens and closes. Now, if you push it up, I mean, it can do it, but it doesn't want to. You're gonna hurt something. Same thing as your knee. Same thing as your elbow, right? So if you're trying to hinge it, you're trying to shut and open the door, and you're doing it with your foot down, your knee, you're just putting it into a bad position, essentially. So your one main trick, make sure that heel's up. Heel's up, legs are in a train track, and then you're sinking down, right? Now, let me get some. If I'm doing this with weights, right? So I got my 30-pound weights. If I'm doing this with weights, a lot of times people are gonna wanna step so far forward and then try to push all the way back up, right? Essentially, you wanna do that, but make sure that when you're here, this is why I personally like to sink all the way down, because it's safer, well, because of my ankle injury, but you can do really whatever's comfortable for you. It's just, for me, this is what I find to be a little bit better, and it has saved my knees significantly. Now, if you want to go ahead and lunge, like, just a typical lunge back and forth, by all means, go ahead and do that, but I would suggest reverse lunge. If you're dealing with knee pain, reverse lunge, because you're not stepping forward onto that knee. Essentially, when you step forward onto that knee, your patella, sometimes you just don't have the quad and the hip pain to actually, or the hip mobility to get yourself into a good position. So, fuck, you're giving me a workout today. I'm gonna have to end up sweating a little bit. I just did my workout. I got out of the shower. Shit. But, so that's lunge, right? Lunge and split squat. I have a nonsensical fever of time. Phobia of toes. Why do you have a phobia of toes? What's wrong with, you don't like your toes? Interesting. So, take a deep breath. But essentially, now that we have the lunge, sink the hips down, the squat, make sure you're sinking your butt back. Let's talk about a row. So, if you're doing a dumbbell row and you're one of my clients, I don't want to see you on a bench. I probably should have moved my bench over. Shit. Oh well. But I don't want to see your knee on a bench and then you're rowing like this, right? I already made the video on Instagram. If you're on YouTube, watch it on my Instagram at the Healthy Yinzer. But on the bench, when you get yourself with your knee down, it's not the best. It's not your best range. It's not what you really want. So you want to essentially get your hand right onto something with the weight in the midline and be able to row from here, right? So let me ask you this. If you're doing a standing bent over row with a dumbbell, you're going to do it in a wide-legged stance and you're going to row from here. Now, why the hell are you going to get on a bench and have your knee like so to row like this? It really doesn't make too much sense anatomically speaking. The reason being is because you're putting your spine at a shearing force, right? So when you put your spine at a shearing force, when you go to lift and you don't have your serratus anterior, you don't have your lats, you don't have all these muscles working in the symbiotic relationship, you end up getting hurt. And a lot of times when I see from clients and even myself, the way I have gotten hurt is from doing just lifts wrong. I mean, let's be real, that's where most of us get hurt from. And so it's something to consider when you're doing your rows. Make sure that you have 3 points of contact as I break my ass. Make sure you have 3 points of contact and be able to row from that regard. And let me think of, oh yeah, the shoulder press. Shoulder press, I want you to think, a lot of times when people are on a shoulder press or on a bench, give myself a little bit of break making me do a damn workout right here. But when we're doing a workout or you're doing a shoulder press, a lot of times people like to come all the way down, press all the way up, doing this. Now, it's not the worst thing, right? It's definitely not going to be the worst thing, but it's not the best thing, because what you could do is engage a little bit more muscles by keeping your elbow at a 90, keeping your arm at a 90, right? So if you start and finish the exercise from here, you're actually putting more time under tension under your medial deltoids, under your posterior deltoids, and really all of your deltoids, to be honest, anterior, posterior, medial, because now you're starting this lift from here and ending here. And essentially what ends up happening is you get tired throughout your whole shoulder. Now when you bring it all the way down, these muscles turn off. So technically it's a tension thing. Where can you keep the most amount of tension? And if you always struggle to develop shoulders, or you just struggle to get shoulder strength, that could be a breakthrough for you, right? Next time you do a shoulder press, keep it at a 90 and stop at a 90. So you start at a 90, end at a 90. Don't bring it all the way down here and do it like that. It's just the little things, right? It's all about turning on the muscles. Now, you might be asking, why are you sitting on the stability ball? I get messages all the time on Instagram. Every time I get, Nick, why don't you get a chair? Why are you still sitting on a stability ball? What the hell are you doing? Well, I like sitting on the stability ball because let me move this before I break my ass. I prefer a stability ball better than a bench. And the reason being is, a lot of times, whenever you're working out at your house, you don't have a lot of heavy weight. Sometimes people only have like 2 dumbbells at their house, right? When they're trying to work out. So it's like, if you have 2 dumbbells, you've got to make the workout efficient. And so essentially what we're doing here is, with the stability ball, when you're going down and you're doing a lift, let me show you here. When you're going over here and doing a lift, you could do your stability ball workouts like this, right? But why would you do that as a bench? Whenever you can lift the hips, squeeze the butt, squeeze the core, squeeze the quads, and then now you just turned a chest press that would have been nothing to now a full body exercise, because your glutes, your core, your hips, your quads are all engaged. So that's why I always say, like, if you're on a budget, you're trying to work out, get yourself a damn stability ball, because you could do so much with the stability ball that, I mean, whether you could use it as a bench, you can do squats with it if your form sucks. You could do so many things with this core. Actually, I should probably just do a whole series on stability ball. Maybe that's what I'll do for Instagram. But essentially, like, if you're looking for a low-cost option and you only have so much weight, it's like, let's be real. Like, even this, right? This is one of my favorite exercises, probably like ever. The pullover. You inhale, bring back, exhale forward. I am working the full body by core, hips, quads, everything stabilizing. So when people are always talking about they want to build a core, that's where you build it, right? Is by doing these different activities. Now, if I'm sitting on a bench, I can't get any of that core strength. I can't get any of that instability of my legs and the weight, and so I recommend, especially whenever you're getting back from an injury, trying to get back into exercise, get yourself a damn stability ball and get to work, right? Like, let's be real. But yeah, and then the kettlebell. Let me show you the kettlebell. So a lot of times, I've made a bunch of videos recently with the kettlebell, doing different types of kettlebell swinging, doing different exercises you can do with the kettlebell. Now, I always recommend, people always ask, Nick, how many pounds should I get? How many pounds kettlebell should I get? Really, you can get whatever the hell you want, but I recommend starting with a 15
pounder. Reason being is that it's heavy enough, but it's heavy enough to do some work, but it's also light enough that you're not killing yourself, right? Now, if you get a 20 pound, that might be a little different. 15 pounds is usually your groceries. Like if that's the way you want to think of it. 15 pounds, if you stacked up your grocery bag, you know, like, and you have to use your obliques to kind of stabilize and walk with it, that's where you want to be. So get yourself a 15 pounder, but essentially a lot of times you see people, I see this all the time, doing it wrong. And that's a kettlebell swing. And it's because of what we talked about in the very beginning, right, with the hip hinging. So when you're doing your hip hinge, most people don't really, well, let's start from not knowing what a hip hinge is, and then you try to go kettlebell swing. So you doing it, right, we're pushing with our knees, so we're doing, actually I've been doing it, I don't have to really think about this, messing it up. So if I'm here, I'm starting here, right, horribly, right, I don't even know if I have a hinge. But what I see a lot of times is this, right, you're pushing forward, and you're using your arms to throw it all the way up. And that's wrong, right? What we need to figure out when you're doing a kettlebell swing is that you hinge, right? I prefer starting into this position, right? You're in your hinge because when you're here, the exercise is all about the hips squeezing at the top. Your arms are just a secondary. Your arms are going for a ride, right? Like your arms are just kind of here to hold the weight. I'm not even really trying to swing my arms and my shoulders. I am more or less using the hips and the momentum from gravity and the momentum, hence the reason kettlebell swing. It's not supposed to be in your arms, it's supposed to be in your hips. Now you'll see a lot of times there's people, they'll go from here, really just focusing on the hinge. More American-wise, we kind of go all the way up. And I think that's more or less because of like the CrossFit type of thing. But essentially, the whole reason you're using a kettlebell is the hinge. I mean, it is literally, I don't know how many times I'm going to look like I'm hinging and humping the air. But that's what we want. Right? That's essentially what we want. We want to work with the hinge, with the kettlebell. Best thing about a kettlebell, comparatively speaking, to the dumbbell, right? See, the dumbbell has 2 weights on each side. The kettlebell, the weight and the gravity is going down. So that's the way you really got to think of what's the difference between a kettlebell and a dumbbell, is that the gravity is always pulling it down a lot more than the kettlebell or the dumbbell, because now you can do it at equal sides. Where this gets difficult is that you can flip it up, and then now you have this whole instability, right? You can hold it here, focus on not letting it fall, right? Now if you did that, it would be more distributed from each side, and it wouldn't be as challenging, right? Because the weight is there. But I don't know, I could talk about this shit all day long. But essentially, how the hell, and we'll finish this one up, is how do you make a lightweight? So Nick, I don't have a 35 pound. I don't even have a 15 pound. Somebody gave me some grandma weights that are 8 pounds. I only got an 8 pound weight. How do I use that and make that heavy? Oh, you can't get any gains with an 8 pound weight. And yes, you can, because there's a way. There's a will, there's a way, right? Am I right about that? There's a will, there's a way. Thing is an 8 pound weight can be heavy if you know how to utilize it. These stability balls, right? They'll roll at you when you don't want them, and then when you go to actually use them, they're halfway down your gym, halfway down the area, and it pisses me off. But essentially, you only have, an 8 pound weight. How the hell do I make this heavy? How do I even do anything with it? Well, first you got to realize that 8 pounds, whatever weight you're going to do, is subjected to the intensity that you put onto it, right? So I can make that 30 pound really heavy by just holding it, right? Isometrically contracting it. You can make a lightweight heavy by really focusing on tempo. So what I mean by that is, like, you could do this all day long, right? This, you could just sit here, you could probably crank out 100 of them if you really wanted to. If you slowed it down, held it at the top, bring it back in. 3, 2, 1, hold it at the top, bring it back in. You're gonna do significantly less than if you were just trying to crank them out, right? Now, same thing here, right? I only got the 8-pound weight and I'm trying to do my rows. Well, if you're trying to do your rows and it's not getting anywhere, it's because you're trying to start the damn lawnmower and it's not getting you anywhere. Slow it down, hold it at the top, slow going down, right? Contract the muscle at the top. That's how you can make a lighter weight heavy. You don't need to go out and buy a whole bunch of weight. And to be honest, if you're one of my clients, you know that I'd rather have you go on duration and reps before you get to a new weight. I want you on 15 reps. If you could do 15 reps of a particular weight for 3 sets and you feel good, then you move on. But until then, because there's so much ways that you can make this heavy, right? Now, for instance, if I'm out here, I could do my steering wheels, I could do my presses, I could do my triceps, I could do my around the worlds, I could do all these things. If I do them fast, I don't get anywhere. If I do them slow, my shit's gonna start burning. My arms are burning, my shoulders are burning. I'm already burning right now. I'm somehow working out. So let me take a deep breath and let me take a drink. But essentially, those are some of my tips for today. You could utilize them however you want. But essentially, let me just kind of run through a lot of what we just said, because I want to try to keep it under a half hour. Because I'm hungry, I'm getting hangry. I'm doing I just did 3 workouts now. I'm feeling luckily I did some energy. But if anybody has any questions, YouTube, Instagram, we're live on both. I'm trying to do some more stuff on YouTube. Over the last 3 months, I kind of been really focused on Instagram and building it over there. We have, we're so close to 70,000 people on Instagram. I can smell it. We're so close. But on YouTube, you guys are my people. You guys are my ankle recovery people. And I didn't forget about you because I want to show you that if there's a will, there's a way. But essentially, let's kind of go over everything we went over today. We went over your lunge, right? Your squats. What do we do for your squats? You sink your butt back. I guess I could have just done this whole video in about 5 minutes, right? For a squat, sink your butt back rather than push your knees forward, right? Sink rather than push. And again, this ankle is broken, so disregard how that one looks. But essentially, sink, don't push. You'll save your ass. You'll save your knees. When you lunge, we don't want you going into a tightrope, right? We don't want you tightroping. We want you train tracking, walking on a train track. So when you lunge, your hips should be like 2 lasers pointing wherever the hell you're looking, right? I don't want to see your hips turn like this, and then you're lunging with your foot kind of doing all this crazy shit, and then you're yelling at me, Nick, my knees hurt. I don't know when I lunge. And then I see your form and you're doing this. No, we ain't doing that anymore, right? So get your legs into that hip distance position, sink that knee down, and focus on your knee sinking down with your heel up. If you're doing a lunge, your heel should always be up. Remember that. If you're doing a lunge, your back heel should always be up. I'm gonna reiterate that. I'm actually gonna make that's gonna be my shirt. If you're doing a lunge, your back heel should be up. Why? So your body can hinge. Your knee is a hinge. It doesn't want to do all this crazy shit. It wants to go back and forth, right? There's a huge difference between me trying to lunge like I'm in a warrior 2 position. My knee does not go down, right? Like it does not want to do this. But if I can do this and sink, it wants to do that. Like believe it or not, your body wants to do that. So stop pushing so much damn weight into the forward of your knee and then complaining to me that your knees hurt. sink the hips down, make sure that the back heel is up, and there you go. There's your $100 an hour advice. So then now we got to figure out your squat, right? So when you squat, you're wide, you're sinking your hips back. You don't want your knees buckling in. I don't want to see you, Nick. Well, now I got the hinge, but now my knees look like I'm chicken legging all over the place. No. Legs are wide. You're hinging back like you're sitting on the toilet, but then now push your knees out to the side and actually feel your quads for the first time. Ain't that something? Holy shit, you got some quad activity. Maybe now your butt's on fire. Maybe you're actually feeling these muscles for the first time in God knows how long. But the thing is this right here, if you're watching this and you're being able to use any of this, this could be the breakthrough for you that you've been looking for your whole entire life. It could have been just that one little switch of sinking the hips back, not pushing the knees forward, doing that stuff, right? You go on Instagram, you go on YouTube, you scroll on these reels, you scroll on all this information, and I'm actually going to be making a long-form video about it. Is I spent an hour yesterday, scrolling through just information on Instagram. And everything was backwards. It was like, don't eat these protein bars because they contain this ingredient. Don't drink this drink because it has sugar. Don't eat this food because it has this. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. That's the problem that I'm seeing right now. And mind you, I'm an exercise physiologist. I've got degrees. I've been working with people. I work with professional athletes. I work with grandmas. I work with everybody. So what I see is that there is a lot of misinformation because I get asked all these questions all the time. Nick, what am I supposed to believe? What am I supposed to do? This person's telling me that I don't eat processed food. This person's telling me I don't do this. The problem is we've gotten into a culture where we get into a point where it's don't do this. Do this. Don't do that. Do this. And the problem with that is we're always looking for something new, right? We're always looking for something that is going to be this breakthrough. Oh, semaglutide. Oh, this, that, the third. Look, the problem is there's so much damn information at your fingertips. What you need to do is do the stuff that we just went over today, right? Actionable stuff that you can actually apply into your health. Work on your hip hinge. Work on your knees. Working on the places that you actually need to strengthen. Using a stability ball to get some more glute function and get some more bodily function. Figuring out that, you can actually get yourself into a position where you can actually take control of your health. I had a couple clients over the last couple of days tell me that I've been to the doctors and, I am seeing new levels of my blood pressure, new levels of cholesterol, new levels of H1C, new levels of these things. And if you can make that your why, because you don't want to have those horrible conversations with your doctor whenever you go there and they say, hey, you got to get on this, you got to do this. Actually, you know what, Johnny, you should probably stop smoking and start exercising. But if you go to your doctor's visits proactively, being like, hey, this is what I'm doing, boom. And then they look at it and they go, holy shit. Like, that makes you feel so much better because that's what's going to help you keep going, right? If you're so focused on the goal with the outcome, right? You're so focused on listening to fucking Eddie, whatever his name is, telling you, don't eat this, this is shit, that shit, this is shit. Then you got the bio lane guy, he's telling you these sciences, The thing is like, we all, I think, and then you have me telling you that your ass is flatter than a yoga block, right? Like, the thing about a lot of the fitness influencers, the fitness space, the fitness, just Instagram, social media, whatever you want to call it, is that we're looking for attention, right? You're looking for attention. You're looking for likes. You're looking to stop somebody's attention, right? Because most of the time we're just scrolling. So when you see a lot of those videos, it's more or less for entertainment, right? Like, remember that. Like, when you're going through these fitness reels and you're going through a lot of this stuff, a lot of it is made for entertainment. There was a research that I saw that it said like up to, 80% of fitness influencers have never worked with an in-person client before. Now you got to think, a lot of times we're getting this information from people who've actually never even seen anybody. They just had a good body and looked good and everything was good. So you always have to make it with that lens of like, who is this person, right? Are they actually trying to help you? Are they actually giving you advice that they, want you to actually see you on the other side? Are they selling you snake oil, skinny teas, fat talks, do this, do that? Well, it's so hard to fucking find out, right? Because everybody's saying different shit, so it's hard to realize. But just remember, we're making it for entertainment. Some people are making it for education. You can get a lot of good education on YouTube, right? We can get a lot of good education on YouTube. But I think if you're going on Instagram, Instagram's going to be more entertainment based, right? So if you're getting a lot of your health facts from Instagram, just remember, look at it on the lens of, is this person just trying to get clicks, trying to make something? Because I scrolled through an hour of it, and it was just I wrote it all down. It was, don't eat protein bars because of a specific ingredient. Don't eat cereal because of X, Y, and Z. Don't eat oatmeal because it contains this. Don't drink fruit juice because it contains sugar. Don't, it's just like, holy shit. Don't eat too much protein because it's going to ruin your kidneys. What was the other one? Like, if you're trying to burn body fat, like, do this. Like, it's fucking overwhelming, right? And the problem is that this is how the diet industry thrives, right? And this is the note I'm going to end it on so you guys can be better consumers. Is just realize that the diet industry thrives on our confusion. Why? Because a confused consumer is a paying consumer. If you're confused, you're going to keep buying the next weight loss magazine, the next weight loss pill, the next this, that, the third, the next diet, the next Ozempic shot. And if you could remember that this is a $1 billion industry, and the barrier to entry is very fucking low, because it's hard to distinguish me, who has multiple degrees and went through universities and went through the trials and tribulations and done research with people, comparatively to the person who just got a 3-month certification from ACE online, and then they call themselves an online coach, right? So it's really hard. It's a real the barrier to entry is very low. So you always have to remember, who the hell is it that I'm listening to? Have they been through some shit? Did they actually study? Where is it? And not to say that you need to have some crazy credentials to actually be able to teach people. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that you have to keep that lens open. You have to keep that lens open, because if you don't, then you're just going down and spinning and spinning and spinning down the circle, looking for what's next, what's best, what's this, what's that. And you actually never get to solve the problem. What the problem is, you need to fix what you're already doing. That's the issue. You got to fix the diet, you got to fix your activity. We already know this, but the problem is a lot of times you need support, you need a plan. And if you're ever struggling with that, I want you to know that I am here to help, right? I do these live streams every day on Instagram. We do Sunday morning community yoga. And the reason I do this isn't because I'm, trying to sell my service. It's because I'm actually trying to help. And if you want me to actually coach you, like I've helped hundreds of clients lose 20, 30 pounds, get their life back in order, that's what I'm here to do, right? That's what I'm here to do. If you want to, I give out so much free information. There's so much free information out there that that's all you really need, right? You can look at the information, because that's how I got started in this field anyways, right? We'll end it at that. I got into the industry because I was in severe back pain and I couldn't walk. I couldn't get out of bed. I was 22 years old, couldn't get out of bed. And that's the reason why I'm doing this forum stuff, because I'm not just saying hey, your squat's all fucked up, you're squatting like this. It's because that's what I was doing. And that's what caused a lot of my back pain. I'm not telling you that, hey, your knees, when you're lunging, you're doing this is an issue, and your foot's down is an issue trying to do. It's because that was me, right? And the reason that I was able to fix a lot of my issues was because of yoga videos on YouTube. And so you have to make sure that you're looking at these things with the lens that you're trying to get better, and you're just trying to improve every day, day in and day out. So I'll leave you on that note, because I'm starting to get hungry. So thanks everybody for joining on Instagram. Thanks everybody to joining on YouTube. We could be doing this a lot more. So yeah, I'm just here to help. Oh, Denise, thank you. Oh, you know, see, Denise, I appreciate that, Denise. That really does mean a lot to me. And I just try to do my part, right? Because the way that I feel is that, like, if I can help others be better and take back their health, that's going to make you better for the people around you, right? It's going to make you better because you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching. And I always say it's either day one or one day. You get to decide that, right? Is it going to be day one that you start focusing on yourself? Is it going to be just one day? All right, I'll go get to it. Fuck that. It's day one, right? And so if I could come out here and give you some information and get you some inspiration to make it the day one, man, that's where I'm at. That's what that helps me go to sleep at night. So I'm here to help, and just remember that I'm only a message away, right? On YouTube, it's a little love your dedication. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Because I've been in your position, right? A lot of my YouTube is completely different than my audience on Instagram, right? A lot of my audience on Instagram is more exercise focused, exercise based. Try this exercise. On YouTube, we're a broken community, right? I was making videos of my ankle being broken and showing that you can actually get through this injury. A lot of times, because I've been there, right? Where it's like, you don't think there's hope. Like, you don't even know if you're ever going to walk again. And so I want to be able to show you that you can, right? You can do more. You can be more. And that, I mean, if you watched my struggle and seen it, right? It's been a struggle, right? And that's all we say is that everybody goes through some shit. I need you. What a great find in you. Oh, Duck, I appreciate that. Yeah, just message me. I'd love to help out. I got bunches of ladies on the app that we're helping, bunches of guys. I mean, the issue is you just need somebody in your corner, right? A lot of times, you give somebody just an opportunity, you never know what can happen, right? You just never know. So if I can do that while teaching you a little bit of form, teaching you a little bit of yoga, teaching you some exercise, making it, joking around here, put this yoga block, your ass looks, whatever it is, just looking for some motivation. So I'm always a DM away on YouTube. It's a little harder because I guess you really can't, but you can DM me on Instagram. Just float on over. I know they don't like that, but DM me, new me, and I'll see how I can help. But thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll be doing more of this going in the future. So awesome. I'll see you on the next video. Look at that. Thanks, YouTube. Look at that. I'll talk to you guys because it's been a while. But I will say, a lot of the times, I used to do videos all day long on YouTube, right? I was actually going to quit Instagram, and this is why you never give up, people. And this is my parting words for you. This is why you never give up on yourself. It's because I was going to give up on Instagram. And I said, you know what? I'm done. And I continued. I just made a couple videos, and then boom, 4.5 million. Another one, 3 million, 2 million. We ended up growing to 70,000 followers on YouTube or on Instagram. So it took a lot of my time. But if I would have quit, I would have never built that audience. So I'm coming back to YouTube because I care about you guys. And so on that note, I'll see you on the next one.